Good morning and thank you for joining us this hour here on One American News. I'm Stephanie Myers. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell offers a short-term solution to avoid a catastrophic government default. In a statement posted on Twitter Wednesday, McConnell said his party would support a deal to temporarily suspend the debt ceiling at a fixed dollar amount. He said that agreement would cover current spending levels into December. The deal would buy Democrats more time for a permanent solution. McConnell reiterated Democrats would have to pass a long-term hike on their own if they insist on trillions in new government spending. But he said a more bipartisan solution may be discussed if Democrats abandon their reckless spending plans. And Senate Democrats say they're open to that offer from McConnell for a short-term lift of the debt limit. However, ahead of a cloture vote on the issue, Democrats say they're still unwilling to accept a longer suspension of the borrowing cap. The upper chamber's vote on the House-passed legislation to raise the debt ceiling was delayed Wednesday as both parties continue to work to come to an agreement. If enough Republicans support McConnell's offer, Democrats could avoid a filibuster on that vote. But it's unclear if Democrats will agree to a fixed dollar increase of the debt ceiling. Several business leaders weigh in on the long-lasting damages that defaulting on U.S. national debt could be. Here's more.
The cascading effects in the ensuing weeks could go anywhere from a recession to a complete catastrophe for the global economy.
CEOs of transnational corporations are stirring up fears of a possible default on U.S. national debt, calling it, quote, a catastrophe. In a video conference with Joe Biden Wednesday, top executives from Citibank, Chase Bank, and others claimed a U.S. default may cause a recession or a global financial crisis. The CEO of Citigroup, Jane Fraser, added an actual default would be unprecedented and could be potentially far worse.
America simply cannot default on the debt because the U.S. Treasury market is the bedrock of our financial system domestically and globally. And defaulting is going to cause lasting damage to the credibility of the United States with investors and in financial markets around the world.
However, former Representative Ron Paul claims the government taking on additional debt is more dangerous than a default.
Just think about how this country was born. It was born in debt and default, and that's why we ended up. One thing that was left of our first currency is this cliche, it's not worth a continental. Now, it's just too bad they didn't listen to Jefferson, because he wanted to put into the Constitution that the federal government couldn't borrow money.
In the meantime, some economists say the U.S. has several options to avert an economic crisis, even in the event of a default.
House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy criticizes the Democrat spending plan and the DOJ for targeting parents who oppose far-left policies in schools. Take a look.
House GOP leader Kevin McCarthy says the Biden administration's trillion-dollar spending plan will not allow Americans to be able to invest in their children's future. During an interview Wednesday, the congressman from California said Democrats are proposing a socialistic program to plan out everybody's lives from cradle to grave. McCarthy predicts the multi-trillion-dollar spending plan will destroy initiatives like Medicare and Social Security and fail the same way Obamacare did, and points out Joe Biden's nomination of a pro-Soviet scholar as top banking regulator raises concerns of the banking sector's stability.
This person wasn't like Bernie Sanders and went to Moscow for his honeymoon. She literally went to school there and got the scholarship, the Lenin Scholarship. And did she get indoctrinated in that part? Talk about what she says. She thinks Moscow and Russia is better than capitalism. She thinks it's more equalizing in pay than America. And they want her to be in control of the comptroller of our currency.
The Republican went on to say, Biden is making America less competitive, fueling inflation, and increasing the role of government to unprecedented levels, including his education policies. McCarthy highly criticized Joe Biden's DOJ, who appears to be baselessly attacking parents with opposing views because, quote, leftist groups want to control school curriculums.
I think America should stop this. It's not just a move against parents, it's trying to silence and separate. Now they want to intimidate a parent from coming in and questioning about what's being taught to their children. And this is all happening because after COVID, we've had these Zoom classes. Parents are now becoming more aware of what's being said in their classroom, and they're becoming upset by it.
This comes after the DOJ accused dissenting parents of threatening school officials by opposing critical race theory and COVID mandates in schools, resulting in the launch of an FBI investigation announced Monday. Many parents and groups like the Parents Defending Education are now pushing back on the DOJ's attempts to label them as domestic terrorists.
And for you to dare to try to smear parents as domestic terrorists just reflects just how tone deaf school boards and school administrators have become about the pleas of parents on behalf of their children.
Nomani further suggested how the school board should become, quote, the caring cultures they profess to be. McCarthy stressed parents have the fundamental right to control the education of their children and should be welcomed into the classroom with more of a say in what their children are being taught. He also emphasized that education is not the job of the DOJ and that states have the power to decide the terms of academic curriculums.
Education is the great equalizer, but now we're saying government is the only people that have a say, not your parents. This is what's wrong.
Republican senators say they've tried to give the Biden administration solutions for the border crisis, but all they've heard is crickets. Here's One America's Lexington Howe.
This is a humanitarian crisis, it's a public health crisis, it's a national security crisis, and right now Joe Biden and Kamala Harris refuse to do a damn thing about it.
GOP senators slammed the Biden administration for their lack of action at the southern border. During a news conference on Wednesday, Senator Ted Cruz said there are 3 decisions that have driven the crisis, and they all occurred in the first days Joe Biden took office.
Immediately halting construction of the border wall, that happened on day 1. Reinstituting the failed policy of catch and release, that also happened on day 1. And most indefensibly, ending the incredibly successful Remain in Mexico international agreement.
Meanwhile, he said the Department of Homeland Security is allegedly preparing for up to 400,000 immigrants to cross the border this month due to Biden and Kamala Harris refusing to enforce the law. He adds they've seen, quote, the highest rate of illegal immigration in 21 years. Additionally, Senator John Cornyn said as the border crisis continues, criminal organizations are profiting.
Well, the greatest beneficiary of the Biden border crisis are the criminal organizations that are getting richer by the day, charging fees to smuggle people into the United States. And they've learned that if you overwhelm the Border Patrol with unaccompanied children or just sheer numbers like we've seen at the border, that will then open lanes into the United States across the border with which to smuggle illegal drugs.
The problem, he says, is the Biden administration knows what to do to fix the problem, but instead they do nothing and blame Republicans.
The president's press secretary said Republicans have given speeches but offered no solutions. Well, Senator Sinema, who also represents a border state, along with Henry Cuellar from Laredo, Texas, a Democrat, and Tony Gonzalez and I have introduced a bill called the Bipartisan Border Solutions Act to try to give the administration some place to land if, in fact, they're actually interested in engaging and doing anything about it. So far, all we hear from the administration is crickets.
Other senators say the administration is letting the border wall go to waste and that the problem goes beyond the southern border.
This is not just a problem at the southern border. This is a problem that affects all 50 states, and the President of the United States takes an oath to uphold the Constitution, enforce the laws, and he's not doing it.
Lexington Howe, One America News.
Biden and Chinese leader Xi Jinping reached an agreement to hold a virtual summit by the end of the year. An Axios report Wednesday says the 2 leaders have, in principle, agreed to have a virtual meeting before the end of 2021. A senior administration official says the U.S. proposed the virtual meeting because Xi does not plan on attending the G20 summit at the end of this month. Still to come on One America News, a federal judge calls the Texas Heartbeat Act offensive, how the Obama-appointed judge intervened with the new law. Plus, California's current drought has many worried about the water supply. what one company is doing to obtain water within the atmosphere around us when we come back.
We have a detailed sheepdog organizational plan there. Also, our petition to demand the immediate resignation of Rhino Senator Bill Cassidy. Got my note for President Trump, new video up there, and information about the book, America's Last Chance. So each and every day on the program, we ask our great audience members to submit their nominations for Crazy Mask Photo of the Day. And this one was from our friend Kevin in Kansas City. And this is the Statue of Liberty masked up, a little tiny mask on the Statue of Liberty. So sad. Of course, the Statue of Liberty doesn't need a mask. That's the whole idea of liberty. We're not forced to wear a mask or a burqa or anything here. By the way, that Statue of Liberty, and I'm sure you looked at it closely, looks to me like a Dr. Fauci imitation right there. Looks a lot like Dr. Fauci. So that is our winner for today. So thank you, Kevin. If you've got Crazy Mask Photo of the Day, send me your nominations to Jeff at WGSO.com. Jeff at WGSO.com. Hey, a lot to get to here this morning. Going to be, of course, sharing with you some of my thoughts on these issues. Biden's performance is just so pitiful now. New approval ratings show his approval rating plummeting as the American people now are turning against him. 38% approval now. That has been going down, down, down since he started. Ted Cruz says that COVID has shown the Democrats to be authoritarian, jackbooted thugs. You're right, Senator. That's exactly what they're all about. But hey, what do we have? Republicans folding constantly to give them more cover, give them more support. Mitch McConnell is the latest, folding to the Democrats again for the agreement on the debt ceiling. The President, Donald Trump, blasting McConnell. And the Republicans are never going to get anywhere with people like Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy and Paul Ryan and Danny Hastert and John Boehner and the late John McCain and Lindsey Graham. I mean, the Rhino Brigade is never going to lead the Republican Party to victory. And that's all Mitch McConnell and company do. They're just Democrat-light. It's never going to be a successful connection with the electorate because you never see any principles followed. They don't have any. It's just extending their power in Washington. Jeff Career here. It is ringside on the airwaves on Real America's Voice and, of course, WGSO. So Pfizer now accused of experimenting on orphan babies to test their COVID-19 vaccine, according to a piece in the Liberty Beacon, libertybeacon.com. And this is the latest problem for Pfizer, of course. This piece was written at the same time Project Veritas has now released their explosive undercover video from scientists there talking about how, hey, you're more protected if you have natural immunity. And this is from Pfizer scientists, some of them also blasting their employer, one of them calling them evil. And then that's, of course, what we're figuring from the very beginning. But now we got insiders from Pfizer saying that. And of course, as this whole nonsense goes on, we see more and more outrageous behavior from the medical profession. A University of Colorado hospital denies a woman a life-saving kidney transplant because she is unvaccinated. So they're no longer providing organ transplants to unvaccinated patients. An absolute outrage. And then another outrage is in our court system, where an Obama-appointed judge orders Texas to suspend their new fetal heartbeat bill, banning most abortions. This would have banned abortions after 6 weeks. An Obama-appointed judge scrapped the bill, so it now cannot be enforced. And this is what we see time and time again. The people in various states vote for various measures, whether it be California, whether it be Texas, and liberal judges just throw it out. And it is a regular occurrence in the country. Kamala Harris is going to be starring in a space-themed YouTube special for kids as the border crisis is spiraling out of control. So she's got time to star in that. She's got time to do all kinds of personal travel. And she doesn't have time to take care of the issue that she's supposedly the point person on, and that is the border catastrophe. Because she is a catastrophe. She is a disaster. Then, speaking of people having enough, these F Joe Biden chants now breaking out everywhere. We see them at football games. We see them on the roadways. We see them now at baseball games. It broke out at Fenway Park. And I mean, these are blue states where this is going on. We're not talking about just the Southeastern Conference. We're talking about Fenway Park. We're talking about Boston. We're talking about a purple state like Michigan, where he went up to visit. We're talking about all over the country. And I think people are tired of him. And he's only been there for 9 months. Jeff Crouere here. It is Ringside on the airwaves on WGSO, 990 AM, and of course, Real America's Voice. Also, Biden has now started flying Afghans all over the country to places like Pennsylvania after a measles outbreak at U.S. bases. So this is now going to be accelerating in the days ahead now as these Afghan refugees, just like the illegal immigrants, will be sent all over the country. Fort McCoy is a small city for Afghans with culturally appropriate food. So, of course, are these folks vetted? Do we know for sure these folks are people that want to be Americans, that are patriots, that love this country? And that is what I don't think we have any idea about. All right, Jeff Crouere with you. Quick time out. We'll take care of some business. We'll be right back.
Who is publicly associating with this administration? It's from artwork to the son of the president to what we're talking about here, all the way across the board. It is nothing short of a disastrous embarrassment for this country, and we must regain our stature in the world.
It's a good point,
It's
John.
not just about our country. We are a global embarrassment because of this.
All right, I want to play a quick soundbite before we go. Rashida Tlaib, Congresswoman, was wearing a mask, just like she's supposed to be doing. Take a look at this interaction.
Oh, I thought you were like, oh, wait, he's the one unmasked guy. Because I got a Republican tracker.
If you caught that, she said to one of her colleagues there, "I'm wearing a mask because there's a Republican tracker with a phone on." In other words, I'm wearing this mask for the cameras. Forget about the federal mandate. It's total virtue signaling. Christopher Arps, what'd you make of this? By the way, Democratic trackers are out with every Republican that's elected to state and federal office. They're everywhere, but it's just. She's saying the quiet part out loud and doesn't even care. She does it with impunity. Takes the mask, puts it on, says the camera's on. I put the mask on. We've seen AOC do it in pictures. Why do we continue with this theater? I mean, literally, I feel like we should all be applauding because it's a wonderful performance.
Well, what we saw was just another example of Democratic hypocrisy. Do as we say, not as we do. Who's surprised?
Yeah, I'm with you. Amy, thoughts?
Sure. Well, first of all, she's outside, so everyone should be fine to not wear a mask, but they are doing it just for show at this point. And she's right. She does have to perform for the cameras in order for the rest of us peasants and dummies to continue to listen to what they are demanding that we do. And then I find it interesting when I posted this on Twitter that a number of left-leaning responses were actually taking hits at the Republicans.
I saw. I saw your tweet. Amy Tarkanian is an enjoyable follow on Twitter, as is Rob Finnerty. Finnerty USA. To all of you out there. Amy, I'm with you. John, good to see you. John Schneider, Christopher Arps, always a pleasure. I'll see you on your show very soon. Amy Tarkanian, great having you on as always. Hope to see you again very soon.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Stay free.
Wednesday at the Marathon Galveston Bay refinery and has been blamed on a pump seal failure. It's unclear how much oil spilled, but officials are saying the leak was contained to the refinery site. A spokesman for the company said There's no indication that there's a risk to the community, and no injuries have been reported so far. He added, a cleanup is underway and the cause of the leak will be investigated. Still to come on One American News, a White House official meets with a Chinese envoy to discuss relations between the nations, what they talked about and why it matters. Plus, a Saharan sandstorm arrives in the Caribbean, carrying potentially dangerous volcanic particles with it. More on this natural phenomenon when we come back.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Jeff Crouere here. It is a busy edition of Ringside this morning on the airwaves on Real America's Voice and WGSO. And we've had all kinds of things going on this morning, and certainly appreciate you being with us. Lots of various topics, of course, on our minds this morning that we're following, including what is going on at the border, what's going on with these vaccines, what is happening with these, of course, polls that show the Biden agenda just tanking. Well, there is undercover video from Project Veritas featuring Pfizer scientists that are now exposing, I think, what has been going on and the lies to the American people. So let's check out what James O'Keefe and Project Veritas have been uncovering, and what I think is a tremendous public service to all of us that they do these undercover videos. They get the truth out there. Of course, the mainstream news media ignores them. 504-556-9696. What else is going on is the left is trying to push their agenda any way they can. So there are two quote-unquote moderate senators in the U.S. Senate, two that are not drinking the far left, progressive, socialist, communist Kool-Aid, two that have some semblance of sanity, Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin. And they've been after Sinema now for quite a while. And they're not happy with her that she's not on board with the Biden agenda. And she's been harassed everywhere. She's been harassed on an airplane. Here she's harassed in the bathroom, which is, I mean, so pathetic. Now, Joe Biden was asked about it and said no big deal. Let's go to clip number 2.
We need a Build Back Better plan right now.
We need solutions. The Build Back Better plan has the solutions that we need.
We knocked on doors for you to get you elected, and just how we got you elected, we can get you out of office if you don't support what you promised us. My name is Blanca. I was brought here to the United States when I was 3 years old. And in 2010, my grandparents both got deported because of SB 1070. And I'm here because I definitely believe that we need a pathway to citizenship. And this is the opportunity to pass it right now. And we need to hold you accountable to what you told us, what you promised us that you were going to pass when we knocked on doors for you. It's not right.
I'm a survivor of human trafficking. And it's because of the lack of worker protections that we don't have in the gig economy. I need you to stand by workers, lots of people who are like me, who became homeless and justice and solutions that we need for immigration, labor, climate change.
Pass the bill! Build Back Better! Pass the bill! Build Back Better! Pass the bill!
I don't know what to say other than these people are sick, other than they are seriously deranged. They're harassing a liberal. Kirsten Sinema is no conservative. She's no Ted Cruz. She's no Rand Paul. She's just maybe not as bad as Bernie Sanders. And for that, they're not giving her any peace in the bathroom. I mean, it's unreal. And of course, these groups are funded by, guess who? George Soros. And they're funded to intimidate, to take over the political process, to absolutely disrupt. And they've been, up until now, very effective. And they've been able to buy their way into political office. Look at all the problems going on in places like Chicago. Why? That DA is bought and paid for by George Soros. that DA doesn't believe in prosecuting criminals. Chicago is a disaster, a war zone. So are many of these other cities that have been taken over by George Soros and company. And now they're trying to take over the United States Senate, and they're trying to take over the country and push the most radical agenda we've ever seen. Of course, some people are saying it's reminiscent of the New Deal, the Great Society, FDR, LBJ. And my contention has been that it's further to the left. But guess what? LBJ and FDR had something called a mandate. They won a massive majority of a vote from the American people. Did Joe? Did Joe? Even if you accept the disputed and fraudulent election results, he did not. Even if you accept the election results in November 2020. He barely won the presidency. His party barely won Congress with the slimmest majority in history. And more Republicans won governorships and more Republicans won state legislative seats. So Republicans won at the state level, and the Democrats are clinging on to the very, 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 very thin margin in Congress, and Biden is in the White House. They have no mandate. That's why his poll numbers are dropping. Because American people realize that this is the most radical agenda in American history. Jeff Carrera with you. It is Ringside on the airwaves on Real America's Voice and WGSO. We'll have a brief time out. Going to take care of some business. Come back and share with you more of these clips. Great guests joining us. Also your phone calls. Lots of other topics we'll get to. Jamming as much in as we can on this Thursday. Great to be with you here for Ringside Politics.
Biden's handling
on
of military taxes, more foreign policy, immigration, and of course, his response to COVID-19 and the economy. Poll analysts saying the survey shows Americans are battling a trust issue with President Biden. His leadership, those are questions that people are asking and challenging the president's overall competency. Republicans and Democrats, Republicans and independents hammering the approval rating from all sides. But his base, the Democrats, they remain true to President Biden. Back to you.
Banks do not work for the IRS. This is invasive of privacy. Do you distrust the American people so much that you need to know when they bought a couch or a cow?
It's so darn true. That was Wyoming Senator Cynthia Loomis talking about an item that was literally just discovered in President Biden's $3.5 trillion spending plan because it's more than 2,000 pages long. If passed, every bank in America would be required to report any transaction over $600. Not a lot of money, which is a massive change from the current $10,000 threshold. Joining us now for more on this, the CEO of Chickasaw Bank and Oklahoma Transportation Commissioner, a weekly panelist on Wake Up America, and a friend and a great guy. T.W. Shannon is with us. T.W., great to have you all to myself, just one-on-one. But I figured you were the perfect person to ask about this spending plan. If it's passed, this is going to target 99% of the population in America. More than 300 million people would be affected by this day one. Why does the IRS need this information?
Yeah, Rob, first of all, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. This is a Treasury proposal, as you mentioned, that is part of the $3.5 trillion infrastructure spending spree, or as Congressman Kennedy called it, the spending orgy, if you will. But this is actually frightening, and it's reminiscent of KGB-style governing. I mean, you've got a proposal that requires every bank in America to essentially report to the IRS every transaction that's over $600, and it would really make us the policing arm of the IRS. I mean, it's really a regulation of community banks, and it's going to regulate us out of existence. And whether, you know, the donations to your church or you're buying a rifle, IRS federal agents would have an eye on your transaction. This is already a large portion of unbanked Americans who are hesitant with our banking system anyway, and this would only grow that number. It's quite chilling that President Biden at this time would be proposing such a proposal in order to raise revenue to pay for this out-of-control spending you're seeing in Washington.
Yeah, with a 38% approval rating right now on this Thursday morning. Tell me, just from a mechanical standpoint, you run a very large bank there in the Midwest. Sure. I know that the IRS has to report annually transactions, but what benefit would they get from knowing if I take $600 out to buy whatever, a TV?
Well, the claim is that this would give the IRS the ability to better track people who are avoiding taxes. So if you're a S-Corp or an LLC or some other business. This would allow them basically to compare your income to what you're reporting to the IRS. Allegedly, that's it. But again, as we know, when you empower these bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., very dubious things can happen. And often it's conservatives who are targeted. My real problem with this piece of this idea or proposal is that you're going to make Americans guilty until proven innocent.
Yes.
And it should be the exact opposite.
Exactly.
That's really what
on
we're
the
trying to
air
get
right
at
now
here.
live.
And again,
Give them a call at 556-9696. I think they're coming to take me away.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to get to some of your phone calls in a bit, but we've got a few more great clips to share with you. I wanted to share with you how Biden is doing in the polls, and he is not doing well. Even the liberal news media outlets have to acknowledge it. Let's check out clip number 4.
These new poll numbers, frankly, are brutal for the president. In this brand new Quinnipiac poll, only 38% of Americans approve of how Biden is handling his job compared to 53% who disapprove. That's the lowest approval rating Biden has had since taking office. Another striking number, only 39% of Americans approve of Biden's handling of the economy. 55% say they disapprove of the job he's doing on the economy. When asked, is Joe Biden an honest president? 44% of Americans say yes. 50%, a plurality, say no. And one of the most damning results of all, more than half of the American people, 55%, say the Biden administration is not competent in running the government. 42% says the administration is.
The American people are waking up. Hallelujah. They are waking up. And also, of course, signs are being displayed all over the country telling Joe Biden what people think of him. He addressed this the other day. Let's check out how he talked about this. Great spin. Let's go to clip number 3.
This is a big deal. This is gigantic. That's what, and notwithstanding some of the signs that I saw come, that's why 81 million Americans voted for me. The largest number of votes in American history. A clear majority were supported when they supported me. No, not a joke. Think of that. Think of that. I don't know what's happened. Not a joke. Not a joke. The world's watching. Not a joke. Not a joke. Not a joke.
The joke is Joe Biden. The joke is on us that he is president. Come on, man. This guy is a total joke. Not a joke. No, he's a joke. 504-556-9696. One of the reasons his numbers are so pathetic is what happened in Afghanistan. Even CNN is reporting on what's happening there, and truth is not good. Let's go to clip number 5.
We did hear from the Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, who said, listen, if we had wanted to keep control of Bagram, that would have entailed leaving 5,000 troops on the ground. But now we know that Abdul Rahman al-Lughari was released from that prison. And I remember that day very clearly. It was the morning that the Taliban took control of Kabul. And we were initially very concerned about the security situation because we knew that the prisons at Bagram, Parwan prison, and also Policharki had been essentially, the doors had been opened and the prisoners had been freed. The Taliban did that to let all their prisoners out, but of course in the process hundreds of ISIS-K prisoners potentially also flooded out.
So just terrorists galore, Taliban terrorists, ISIS-K terrorists, Al-Qaeda terrorists, alphabet soup of terrorism let go. So, yeah, the debacle in Afghanistan, one of the reasons why his poll numbers are so low, the economic disaster, how he's handled COVID, the mandates, and, of course, the incredible chaos at the border. It's another liberal media report about the fact that it doesn't just start in Mexico. It starts way down south. This is from Colombia. So this is planned, this is financed, this is something that doesn't just spring up. All of a sudden 50, 60,000 people show up at the border. No, it takes time. And of course it takes funding. And of course it takes planning. Let's check out clip number 6.
Now to the latest on the southern border crisis. Tens of thousands of migrants are still heading to the United States despite last month's removal of that huge group from a makeshift camp near the Texas border. Many of them are now gathering in Colombia. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez is there. He's at a beach town in Colombia that's become a real bottleneck. Gabe, good morning.
Craig, good morning. The tents are crammed onto this beach, rows and rows of them packed with desperate migrants trying to get into neighboring Panama. If you're wondering how so many Haitian migrants ended up at the Texas border last month, this is why, and more are on the way.
This morning, Necoclí, Colombia is no longer a tourist town. Some 20,000 migrants, many of them trying to head to the U.S., are now camped out here, desperate to leave. Among them, Haitians, Cubans, and Venezuelans. This man tells us he left Haiti more than a month ago after the earthquake there and says he won't stop now. Each day, they crowd together in line, passports in hand, children held tight.
This is the moment when a few of these migrants are led onto this boat. Many of them have been waiting for this for weeks. Panama is only taking 500 migrants a day, and more than 1,000 are arriving in this Colombian town each day, leading to a huge bottleneck.
Bottleneck there, bottleneck at the border, chaos everywhere. Thank you, Joe Biden. All right, 504-556-9696. Let's get to some phone calls right now, and let's go to one of my favorite places, Biloxi, Mississippi. Let's say hello to Mike, who is with us here this morning. Mike, how are you? Good morning. Welcome.
I'm good. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning.
Hey, I just wanted, I was hoping that you could bring up a picture of the old man that Jeff Dunham uses as a puppet. Looks just like Joe Biden. And one other thing, I want the DOJ to check the emails of the cartels. I want to see if it says 10% for the big guy.
Yes, indeed, the big guy. Well, we know the big guy was getting 10% from Hunter's deals. We know the big guy has been profiting from some of those underhanded deals, at least according to what the emails show, and Tony Bubalewski and others that were connected. So who knows what else the big guy is getting, Mike. But hey, it's good to hear from you, my friend, from the great city of Biloxi, Mississippi. Thank you for your call. Our talk line 504-556-9696. So we go from Biloxi to Corpus Christi. Let's say hello to Robert, who's with us from the great state of Texas. Hey, Robert, how are you? Good morning. Welcome.
I'm doing good, Jeff. I hope you're doing well. Just wanted to bring up the fact that really our kids are what they're targeting. If you look at the way the schools are and the pedophilia that's up in Washington, D.C., and basically these people have just sold their souls to be rich and powerful, and the perverseness of these people is pathetic. It really is.
Well, and you look at what happens, Robert, when parents try to speak out against it. They're now being targeted and intimidated by the Department of Justice. I mean, we're not...
I mean, you saw that they're trying to push in the schools of teaching our babies, 5, 6, 7 years old, sexual acts and stuff to make them, I don't know, the perverseness is terrible of what they're trying to put up our kids through.
There's an agenda, and Robert, great call. Thank you for your comments. Good to hear from you. There's an agenda that is A, anti-American, B, racist. C, I think what they're trying to do is promote an LGBTQ agenda. Then you've got, of course, an attack on our history and our traditions with this critical race theory and putting one race against another and trying to demonize the American people, demonize white people. And this is all being accepted and pushed by various forces within our school system, and parents are saying no to it, and parents are being targeted now by the FBI. Unreal. 504-556-9696. Let's go to the great city of Shreveport, Louisiana, and our favorite coffee drinker with us, Miss Deborah, joins us. Hey, Deborah, what's going on?
Good morning, Jeff. All you coffee drinkers.
Deborah, are you with us?
Patriot. Yes.
Patty, let's try to get back to Deborah in a bit. Maybe she's getting herself a cup of coffee, so we'll go back to her in a bit and try to get Deborah on.
I'm here.
There you are. All right, Deborah. Good to hear from you.
Good to hear from you. And all you coffee drinkers, teetotalers, and patriots. I am sick and tired of what's going on. I mean, I've had it. I'm so afraid. I don't know what's going to happen 5 years down the road. For all I know, you may be a communist country. And I don't want that by no means. But on the border, if the Supreme Court brought back Donald Trump's policy, why isn't it being in place? Because it went to the Supreme Court and they voted for Donald Trump's policy to be back in.
Are you talking about remain in Mexico?
Yes.
Right. Well, I think the Biden administration is pretty much ignoring it. From what I understand, they're not following through on the court order. And they're just acting in a very, I think, dictatorial manner, Deborah. And just like so many other issues, all the different things that he did from the very beginning with his executive orders, he's not respecting the separation of powers. And they have their agenda, and they're hell-bent on pushing it through. They didn't have a mandate for it. The American people didn't vote for it, yet they have the power, and they're pushing it through. So that's one of the challenges that we face, stopping somebody who's got a lot of powerful forces behind him, including the media, the deep state, and, of course, Congress and so many liberal judges. Look at what they just did to the Texas heartbeat bill. Some judge, some Obama judge, threw it out. So, I mean, we can make progress in our states and our red states, and yet they'll go to an Obama judge and he'll throw it out. So I guess we're going to have to, continue to fight every way we can, including the courts. But thank you, Deborah. Good to hear from you. Let's go to the Great Lakes state, the great state of Michigan. Let's say hello to Jan this morning. Hey, Jan, how are you?
Oh, I'm good, Jeff. How are you?
Doing great.
I called you the other day and I told you that Biden was going to be in Howell, Michigan. And
yes.
There was over 1,500 Trump supporters and maybe 7 of...
So that was the number, Jan.
And they sat behind the thing, and they had 3 tractors. One had a great big front loader. And of course it said, let's go, Brandon.
Right.
I mean, that's all you heard on the street. So it was pretty funny.
It was 1,500 to 7, huh, Jan? That was the...
Over 1,500.
Wow.
Is what, because I watched...
Wow.
The lady going down the street with her, and they cut her off just as the motorcade was coming through. They convinced Biden that all those people were there for him. That's why he said 84 million.
Right.
And he couldn't even remember Whitmer's name. So it was funny.
Oh, my gosh. Jan, thank you for that report, and thank you for being there and expressing your First Amendment rights and going out there and spending your time. What a productive day. Let people know what really is going on. Quick time out. We'll be right back.
Texas officials say they will continue breaking up human and drug smuggling rings ran by cartels.
It's time for the Biden administration to wake up and get on the job and do its job to protect the sovereignty and safety of the United States of America. This targets the gangs and cartels that Biden is allowing into America who are trafficking this deadly drug.
Governor Greg Abbott also says Biden is still refusing to visit the border or hold a meeting with GOP governors to address the matter. Abbott says Biden must reinstate Trump's Remain in Mexico and Title 42 policies and complete construction of the border wall. We want to update our viewers on today's illegal immigration numbers as the Biden border crisis racks up costs for American taxpayers. Today alone, it's costing $401 million in 2021 so far. Illegal crossings have cost American taxpayers $306 billion. Keep it right here on One American News as we actively track the true cost of illegal immigrants crossing our southern border. Still to come on One American News, the head of the Senate Commerce Subcommittee urges Facebook's CEO to testify before the panel. More on Senator Blumenthal's comments about Mark Zuckerberg. Plus, the International Monetary Fund updates its projections for global economic growth. What to expect from the changes. Next.
Was allegedly killed by 4 people. 3 of them are in jail, while 1 was released from Rikers Island because of bail reform.
So she has been free, out on bail, coming and going, home with her family, her children, working in Harlem, like she didn't just participate in the murder of another human being.
Speakers at the event, however, want to put an end to the cash bail system. Ariane Pastar, NTD News, New York.
Are very concerned.
Fires
I know that many
continue to
Democratic governors are concerned, but of course they've got to toe the party line. They've got to be on board with the administration. These Republican governors were forced to take matters into their own hands and go to the border because they never heard from the president. What stood out to you as different about this visit?